welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, RFK Refugees podcast. Hopefully, you all can hear me. You can hear me talking. You can hear me. It doesn't sound like radio voice. It doesn't sound like anything. Hopefully, you can hear us today. We are live, RFK Refugees podcast, talking DC United. We are talking U.S. Women's National Team, U.S. Men's National Team, Washington Spirit, Loudoun United, everything under the sun, everything MLS. John is here with me as well. John, how you doing?
I'm good. Our producer just put a screenshot of all of our feeds being live at once into the Discord. So I'm feeling confident that the internet has not failed us this time, and we're not having to do this on a Wednesday night. We're just gonna keep on doing it night after night until we get it out. And it looks like we'll do it tonight.
Yeah, looks like we're good to go here. Sorry, folks, for what happened yesterday. It was a long day, I think, for all of us. I got home from 1:30 in the morning the previous day. Didn't get a lot of sleep. Had to go to work. Was not on top of making sure I had everything set up. So we had all kinds of issues. We did get an interview with Mark Fishkin talking New York Red Bulls, which our Patreons will hear that. You all, the listeners, will hear that tomorrow on the regular podcast. It'll come at the end of the show. So be on the lookout for that. We're talking, and he says we're not seeing us live yet. It might just be a little delay, but I think we're live. I'm gonna go ahead and say like we're live, and just hope that everything works. John, how was your weekend, my friend?
It was good. We saw victory occur in person.
Yes,
that was nice. It was a little humid. I mean, and when I say a little humid, it was a lot of humid for September. I mean, DC September is sort of like other places July. So that's not too crazy. I'm glad we got to finally see a win. I'm glad that we have to start feeling better about this team going to the playoffs. We shouldn't feel as frustrated as we have been feeling.
And not just a win, because this team, let's be clear, has won before. They have gotten fans in. They have won games before, but let's be clear, this team actually went in and played well, played an effective game plan, actually looked like the better team out there on the field, and actually won the game. So that was incredibly, incredibly nice to see, incredibly good to see. So
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Might be back. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Yeah, because the stream is just awful. It says we're okay.
Both are showing live right now.
Periscope in. Okay, good. Yep.
And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, RFK Refugees podcast for what feels like the 10th time. We're going to try this again, guys. We have, sorry, people on Facebook. We really tried. We are going to be getting our money back for what we spent on because apparently 3 streams is just too much. Or I might have to come up with something else. I don't know. I'm going to think on this. But right now, we're just trying to get this on what worked before, which was Periscope and YouTube. So watch us there. Hopefully everything will work now. Hopefully my computer will be able to, and my internet and everything else. Despite the fact I have a pretty solid connection, hopefully everything works. So, John, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm still I'm on knife's edge. I feel like I've been scarred here. But hopefully it turns around. Okay, yes, we are live. I see a picture of us talking, although it's choppy. So we're just gonna keep talking. I'm good. It was humid this weekend. I'll say what I've said now, I think 7 times. It was really humid this weekend, and it sucked. But it was very nice to see a win in person and make us feel optimistic about how we're going into the playoffs. We should actually, instead of thinking if we do get in, it will be 1 game and done, we appear to have a team that could possibly make a run because the offense is actually starting to click a little bit, and the defense is consistently throwing up shutout performances.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they actually played a game where they actually looked, they actually looked like they were the better team out there, and that's something we haven't seen in a long time. Is the team actually looking like they're better, like they were the team that deserved to win that game, and I think that's really important because before we've seen them win games this year. They've won 12 games this season, but not every one of those was games where you thought that they were the better team. So that's really good, and that's really important, I think. Absolutely important. And also, it seems like the team has finally just figured out how to actually play play well offensively, which is very, very good. So, yeah, I have very similar thoughts. It was a good game. It was a good win. It had some ugliness after the game, which we will probably get into. But overall, I thought it was a good game.
So I believe what we've got going on is a audio-only experience where I think I'm making a weird face that's frozen, but we're just going to keep on rocking, and we'll have call-ins. I think we could probably still try that because that doesn't get affected by the video freezing. But anyway, let's just talk about this game. Let's get into it. You want to do that?
Yeah, let's do that. So DC United walks into the game. Basically, hasn't played well against Seattle in the past. Hasn't looked well. There was a bit of a spot of good news. Nicholas Ladero was announced that he was not available for the game today. I don't think they were exactly clear why. I don't know if it was some sort of injury, but he did not travel. So that was like kind of a spot of good news for DC because he is very, very important to how Seattle wants to run. He's a very, very key part of how they play. So that was very, very good news for DC. Ben Olsen rolls out pretty much what we expected, which was the same lineup. I don't think anyone was really surprised. Were you surprised at all?
That lineup, no. I for whatever reason keep hoping against hope that my boy is going to get out there, but it's clear that he's not, and I just need to get over it and realize that it's not happening. He's a 15-minute man at this point. Although if you did follow the Instagram account. My man was getting out of a BMW i8 Roadster on the way to the game, which you have to assume is a lease in his current contractual situation. If he bought that outright, his financial planner will be very upset at him. It was not a smart move to buy that expensive of a car. But yeah, overall, I think we've seen this is the entrenched lineup, right? This is the lineup we're going to go into the playoffs with, barring injury. This is what Ben's going to throw out there every game.
Yeah, I mean, I think what he's decided is that. What he has decided is that he is going to play the lineup that is going to best lock down the game defensively, and what is going to lock down the game defensively, and what is going to what's going to keep the teams off the board. But now you're starting to see them actually work a little bit of the offensive game into the play, which they were very, very good. It was almost actually kind of harkened me back to what they did in 2018, which was just a sort of half-field press where they would try to win the ball and then try to move quickly. And it was very effective. And I've kind of wondered why maybe after, this whole passing, slow movement out of the back situation wasn't working, why they didn't just try to go to that again. But I'm still not quite sure why. But it was nice to see that in this game. I thought Areola was good. Wayne Rooney looked like he had some sort of fresh batteries. He was very, very effective. Should have probably had a goal. He had a couple opportunities that probably on any other day would have found their way into the back of the net. I think you would agree with that.
Yeah, 2 posts. It was a post day. I think there was maybe 4 posts hit total for DC United. So the first half ruled. It ruled a lot. Yeah, it just felt like this is now a team that really has a chance to do some damage. The midfield was passing the ball, moving really well. It wasn't sticking anywhere on the field. It's a lot of times this team there'll be a place, in the midfield where someone will continue to make either backwards passes or will hold on to the ball too long. But for a good 15, 20, 30-minute period, the first half, it was perfect. I don't think Ben could have had any complaint with the way the play was going. So from that perspective, really, really good start, and it didn't really change from there.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's really good to see. I thought TT also was very strong. I thought he, of course, had a goal, which was great. I thought he played really, really well. Really, it was just I don't think there's anyone I could really point to on the field and say that they had a poor game. Everybody I thought was really, really effective. DC got some luck. I think there was a breakaway opportunity that thankfully smacked against the crossbar. I think DC was very fortunate in that game, kind of early on.
Jordan Morris, right?
Actually, I think it was Brad Smith. I want to say.
Okay.
That's I believe what Dave Johnson said. So that's really good. And I think that was a really good. It was really good that they didn't give up that early goal, because this game probably could have gone a different route. But I mean, it was. And the crowd was electric. I got a quick question though, for sort of like off the fields, not really related to the game, but sort of related to the game. What do you think of the whole flashing lights thing when they score the goal? That was a new experience to me, because they didn't do that in the last couple games.
Yeah, so I noticed that first at StubHub, or whatever they call StubHub Center now. They used to do that before games and during goals. Yankee Stadium does it after home runs. I like it. I didn't think I would like it. It's sort of gimmicky, but I don't. Audi Field has like almost no traditions yet, obviously, because it's a new stadium, and they're gonna keep trying stuff out and see what sticks. I liked when they played Chuck Brown after we won, although they've kind of stopped doing that. Other than that, it's just sort of it's just sort of what it is. So I'm fine with it. We'll see if it sticks.
Yeah. Yeah, so I kind of people kind of say like, oh, this isn't hockey, this isn't, but I like it. I thought it was cool. I thought it kind of brought a cool atmosphere to the stadium. It causes a little bit of like, I don't know how like what the seizure, like if it causes any like seizures with anybody. I don't know if that type of flashingness either on the TV or through the at the stadium would cause any issues, but I liked it. I thought it was cool. I thought it was something different, unique, sort of a unique experience at Audi Field. So I was happy. I guess I was totally fine with it. I kind of like it. I hate this whole like traditionalist type view sometimes with team names, with how commentators should act in games, and all this sort of like this idea that there's a right way to do things. There's never a complete 100% right way to do things. There's different things. Sometimes they don't work. The hype man that Audi Field tried in the opening game was not good.
No, that was quick turnaround on that one.
Yeah, quick turnaround on that one. But I think the things that you can look at and you say, hey, that's that can be unique, and you can, if you get caught up in that isn't what traditional soccer teams do, then you need to get over yourself, and I'll be perfectly honest with that. And you need to understand that you can do some fun, cool, different things, and soccer can be fun, and that's why it exists. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we want to like bring up about this game.
Yeah, let's talk about Ulysses Segura.
Yes.
Of fame, of podcast fame, of Twitter and internet defame. His reputation is of a sort of a plodding donkey player that Ben Olsen sees something magical in that no one else sees, and he'll occasionally have good games, but he's not going to be a threat. He's not going to beat anybody off the dribble. He's had a pretty good run in the side the last couple games. I think this particular game he was very dangerous. There was a weird series where he dribbled past maybe 6 players and then sort of didn't get a shot off. But the dribbling was cool, and his dribbling was so cool it made it into like a remix tape for the week of like sweet moves, and they cut it right before he lost the ball on the 18. But there's I think a change in at least on Twitter, sort of like the fan base's feelings about Ulysses Segura. I'm sensing it. Are you sensing that? Are you seeing that people are starting to give him more of a chance?
Yeah, I mean, I still think there's still those people out there that I think that are like, I can't understand why, Segura's out there and not, Luciano Acosta. And, my response is, right now you can have as much talent as you want on that field, but if you're not showing it, if you're not bringing it, if you're not, out there showing that you want to be out there on the field, then you don't deserve to be out there on the field just because you're, just because you're Luciano Acosta and just because you're, the most talented player there. So, what I see out of Segura is I see a guy, is he better or more talented than Luciano Acosta? No, but he is willing. He puts in the work. He puts in the effort. And he's actually having probably his best season at DC. Even better than last season. He's put together some really nice plays, some really nice assists, some goals that have won DC some games. So does he do things sometimes that make me, even that sort of that pass back? I think Areola, I think that dribble he had, I think if he had figured out a way to sort of find Areola at that point, Areola is wide open for a breakaway. So there are certain moments where I'm like, I think he tries a little bit too hard and loses the ball. But, I think for right now what the team is and in the future, I think he's fine. Now, obviously, I think he's sort of the line. I want this team to get better at that position, at his position. I don't want him, I think, going in starting next season. I think I would rather have somebody there who is at least challenging him. And I guess they already have that. They got Emil Assad. So he sort of challenges Segura for that role, assuming they keep TT Rodriguez.
And they probably will.
Yes.
I think now we're getting to that point that they probably will. Let's just we're gonna keep talking about this, but in the meantime, if you want to join this audio-only experience that is RFK Refugees, give us a call and give us some backup. Help us out tonight.
Yes.
202-905-0454. I'll say one more time, 202-905-0454. Talk to us about this game on Sunday. Talk to us. We had a lot of conversation on Twitter in the previous week because season ticket deadline was last Monday, and a lot of people kept their tickets. A lot of people got rid of their tickets, and some people are just now for the first time getting their tickets. And I think there was a lot of conversation about that on Twitter, and I think that I think that there's a lot of stories to tell. There's a lot of reasons people have for certain things. So one more time, 202-905-0454.
Yeah.
So let's finish up on this game. We won 2-0. We've got 2 games left. We previewed with Mark Fishkin a thing that people have not heard yet. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, Patreons have heard it. It's up on our Patreon page.
If you were a Patreon supporter, you heard this yesterday. You heard the only productive audio output of RFK Refugees last night, where he talked to Mark Fishkin of Seeing Red about New York. So we have 2 more games in the run up here. We've got Red Bulls and we've got FC Cincinnati at home. You gotta love that, right? That's a good opportunity to really, particularly. I'm not sure if DC wins this weekend and New York loses. I'm not sure if there is an opportunity for us to lose our first round home game. I'm not positive. I've not looked those. That's what we'll do. Obviously, this weekend is figure out the event, the ins and outs of where we finish and where we'll end up. But it's a pretty promising setup. I think this team is heating up. We did not expect it to heat up. We expected us to limp so hard and so far that we wouldn't even get into the playoffs. So the fact that we are now playing maybe the best soccer of the year, tied maybe at the very beginning of the year, right when it matters the most, you got to be feeling good as a fan I think all of our expectations just slid up a little bit. Like before we're like just getting the playoffs, and now we're like maybe win a game. Let's go to the next round. We should be there. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean,
playoffs are still ridiculous in MLS.
Yeah, and to be fair, this is going to be a very different playoff picture entirely from last season. It's a single elimination game, one game. So I expect this playoffs to be an absolute mad sprint. I'm even looking at a team like LAFC, and they're on a 5-game winless streak. I mean, they blew everybody out of the water coming up to this game, and now they have not won in 5 games, which is crazy to think about. But I think, teams start running out of gas, and then suddenly now we could be looking. There is a conceivable picture here now, and before what it was looking like, it was like everybody in the East was kind of below everybody in the West, and it was kind of like you had LAFC, maybe a team or two, and then it was like the West and then the East. Now it's getting a little more interesting. If we're talking about positioning for DC, right now they are 4 points back of Philly. Philly will play a game in hand on Wednesday. I'm trying to remember. I had who they were playing, and I can't remember who exactly they were playing. I think it's New England, I want to say. I'd have
Red
to go.
Bulls?
No, it's not the Red
What are you
Bulls.
talking about?
It's not the Red Bulls.
Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about Philly.
Philly. I'll do that while you vamp.
Yes, anyway. But so they have a game in hand on Wednesday. DC, of course, does not play on Wednesday. The Red Bulls don't play. Toronto doesn't play. Right now,
Philly, of course, is playing San Jose.
San Jose, sorry, that's right. It's a weird Western Conference game at 11 o'clock. But, there's a conceivable vision, because even Philly is starting to slip up a little bit. They are not as strong as they have been. So, really, third place is unlikely, but very much in play for DC. Next up is the Red Bulls. Obviously, they play the Red Bulls on Sunday. A win there virtually means the Red Bulls cannot catch them, regardless of what happens in the final game against Cincinnati. Toronto, of course, has their Canadian Championship game on Wednesday. They then go back. DC, so if Toronto loses then on the Sunday, and of course I am not prepared at all, I forget who they are playing. I do know they play Montreal in the Canadian Championship, but they play Chicago, who's still fighting for a playoff spot and actually is fighting with New England for maybe that final playoff spot. They could be eliminated.
Chicago playing with very serious I hate my last boss energy. Really being like, oh man, we really hated Andrew Hopman, and now we're gonna try again right before we get to Soldier Field.
Yeah,
weird that.
yeah. They actually have an opportunity. Right now New England is currently, they are playing. They play Portland, who's struggling and barely might be limping into the playoffs. If you want to talk about teams that are limping into the playoffs, but they could still be alive. They could also be eliminated. If New England wins against Portland, Chicago, I think, is pretty much eliminated. I think it's 6 points, and I don't know if they can catch them on total wins. At that point, they might be able to catch them, but then there's goal difference to deal with, so they would effectively be eliminated. So that could come into the calculus as well. But getting back to my original point, if Chicago wins against Toronto, and then DC wins, then DC locks up 4th place and the home game before they even have to kick off the final game. And they might be in a play for 3rd place depending on how things go with Philly. So that's kind of the calculus that's in front of DC right now.
My wife added all of the prospective playoff games to the calendar, including MLS Cup, into my Google Calendar, which cracked me up. I was like, yeah, that's possible, I suppose. We should put it on there, I guess. Let's go to our caller.
Yeah, we got Eric on the line right now. Eric, how are you doing? Welcome to the Videoless RFK Refugees live show.
Hello. I'm a little hoarse still from the game. I was super pleased with how things went on Sunday. I think the most controversial thing, I think, on the top of everybody's mind is, of course, the light show. I thought it was fine in the stadium. I had a great time. My parents, who were watching on TV, said it was awful, and we had a disagreement about it. Anyway, I just want to say, I don't know how many people saw this, but I saw there's some post-match audio from Frederick Briand, and he said that right before the Montreal game, the team had a kind of a come to Jesus talk in the locker room before the game, where everyone kind of laid out exactly what they thought was going on and exactly what they thought needed to happen for this team to be successful. And apparently, a lot of grievances that people have been holding on to. No one by name was mentioned, but a lot of grievances were aired, and a lot of the players came up with here is how we move forward. And I thought that was a really interesting just thing to keep in mind while watching this game and just seeing everyone's energy and I haven't seen the team defend this aggressively, attack this like courageously in what, like months, right?
Yeah.
This
So
this
I was
this
really
this
pleased with
grievance
that.
airing this grievance airing was before the Seattle game. It was before the most recent game.
I believe, and you guys are more than welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard in it was just a post game clip. I think it was on MLSsoccer.com the other day about it was Briant or someone mentioned that it was before the Montreal game,
Okay,
which
got
makes
it.
sense because that's kind of when everything started shoring up defensively. Not that defense was ever really the biggest issue, but I think everyone got back on board. I mean, it just looked like people were making chances. Like Ariola didn't score any goals, right? But he was just all over the place in the attacking third. Like it was spectacular. I also want to bring up Segura and Knaus and Briant on that right side have really found a way to just create scenarios where they are able to get the ball, get themselves into places where they're going to get the ball, and then be able to get in crosses or get on the end of crosses from Rooney or TT on the left side. And I think that really has added a dynamic avenue that DC has not had in like I said in like months. And I just wanted to know. I don't know. Did you guys see that at all?
Go
I
ahead,
know
John.
that I was talking to my wife as we were watching this game. It was like I haven't had this much fun watching this team since it was before it was hot. Like just like mid June, I feel like was when I was last like, yeah, this rules. I'm glad we got these season tickets. And then the last the last month and a half, 2.5 months, 3 months have been kind of a punishing slog. So it would not surprise me. I think I've heard all other conversations about sort of full team meetings about um, the players having issues with certain other players and maybe commitment. I think some of those players are no longer in the lineup. I think probably some of the problems that people had with players were probably people not getting back on defense, people not committing all the way, people loafing. I can think of a few players that are no longer in the starting 11 that were at the time that are
Awesome.
not
Excuse
playing
me.
it yet. Two of them. I can think of two actually, two or three. And only one of them is my boy. The other one's not. The other one's a guy on loan that we're probably going to send back to his team when the thing's done. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a precipitous change, and if it's a players called meeting, cool. If it was Ben, that's cool. I'm not sure that it was. I think it was just the players that decided that they've got to take control of this thing that had spiraled out of control a little bit. I'm glad they did because now this team looks dangerous. Like we've been saying, this team actually looks like it's going to make a difference instead of just either whimper out and be a complete disappointment and sort of validate everyone's concerns about both the team, the coach, and ownership, or it does this thing where it becomes a different team. We have a split personality all year round where we go from good to bad to good into the playoffs. It's a very confounding team.
Yeah, and I would
I
say
was just happy to see Rooney taking random pot shots again. Like I
Agree.
missed that.
Yes. No. I think there's absolutely something to that. He was having some fun. I think he was determined to score. He knows that this could be. I mean, it is it, right? But like it could be really it. There's not too many opportunities, and he was trying to score for the fans and for himself instead of sort of just like, you know, check in, check out, hit the time card. That's what it was feeling like before.
Yeah, and I think also just the energy he brought was fantastic, and I think like John said, and I think you do bring a point that I think I think the meeting certainly seemed like it helped. I also think that Ben Olsen deserves credit for what he was able to do this year. There were a lot of people, including myself, who were like, "This is it." I mean, Olsen's done after the season. This is spiraling out of control. John, I think preseason ticket holder event, you were kind of on my boat. That and even a lot of people who I talked to who kind of rolled their eyes at a lot of the Olsen out people were like, I think this is it. I think this is it's time to find something else. I have to give him credit. And I think Eric, do you have anything else? We were going to let you go.
I just wanted to say I think the whole after the game incident is despicable and atrocious. And as someone who sat with the supporters every single game for the last like 4 years, I am just appalled, and I think everyone who sits there is. Anyway, keep the show going,
Eric,
guys.
yes.
Have a good night. Love what you do.
Eric, before you hang up, Eric, does that feel out of character to you? Does this feel like something that happened every week, as people have been or not every week, but many times, as it sort of has been described?
Sorry, the jumping of the Seattle players.
Yeah. Is that something? Yeah. Is that some?
There were some comments
No.
that came out afterwards saying that like, a group will always do this every game and and sometimes stuff happens and sometimes it doesn't. Does that jive with your experience with the people you sit with every week for 4 years, or does that seem
Not
like
at all. Not
right.
not a single bit. People get vitriolic during the game. There's alcohol flowing. I know how that is. It's a big event, but the vast majority of the time, the supporters group keeps to themselves, right? Like we're sequestered in a small section of the stadium, and the opposing fans are not let out until like half an hour after the game's over.
About
And
that? Yeah.
by
Yeah,
that
20
point,
minutes,
they're leaving via a different exit. That the fans, if we've won, there's usually some sort of event on the north side where there's either drummers or singing or something going on there, where it's like they couldn't care less what's going on with the other fans leaving the stadium. So I don't want to throw anything around because I didn't see it myself, et cetera, et cetera. But it just does not mesh with the vibe that I get from what I've seen these last couple of years.
Yep.
Thanks, Eric. I think we're definitely all in agreement about that. But thank you. Thanks for calling in, man. We appreciate it.
So Ted, let's I mean, there's not too much to say there. If there's a possibility that you're a listener of ours and don't know what happened, I guess.
Yeah.
It's possible.
It's possible.
Although was covered on like Channel 9. Once again, Channel 9 and Channel 7 covered DC United when a piece of the building falls on an employee or if there's a fight outside the building. That's pretty much it. So say you don't know. We'll give you a quick synopsis. There was a group of Seattle Sounders fans who had come to the stadium to see the game. They were escorted out 20 minutes after the finish of the game, and apparently they were jumped by a group of supporters. They said Barra. Unless they were wearing Barra shirts. That's a hard stretch to know who it was. There's apparently some video. I've not seen it. I think it was turned into authorities. Have you seen it?
I have not seen the video. I think someone posted it and it was taken down or something. Or
I think it was the guy. I think it was the original guy.
Yeah.
I think that's probably smart of him, particularly if he's putting a police report in like he should. But I think the real things to draw out of this that warrant discussion are, one, it appears that CSC, their obligation to intervene and do anything ends where the Lions Stadium ends. And from that point on, people are on their own, unless there happens to be cops there, which there are not normally just cops hanging out there. Sometimes there's traffic guards, but they're not going to get in the middle of a fight. So that's something to I think that there's going to have to be some clarity on that in the coming weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I think DC United and MLS actually, owes it to particularly traveling fans. I've been a traveling fan a couple times, not as many as I'd like, and I've always felt safe. I felt safe in LA, Toronto, Philly less so, but that's a different story. But I think we need to know what the deal is, what the real protocol is there, and then if that is the protocol, then DC Metro Police has to throw a couple cops there for 30 to 45 minutes after the game just to make sure that everything's all right. It should be. It almost always is. But this time it wasn't, and that's not acceptable in any context at all.
So
go ahead.
Yeah, here's what I'll say: is there are idiots when you get a large collection of people, you get a large organization, huge organization like the Barra Brava that has thousands and thousands of members. There are idiots, and there are people. There are people out there that think this is 1980s England. They think that this is what you do. You have to, show up. You have to, and they do these absolutely atrocious and dumb things. There have been people saying it happens all the time. that is certainly not the case. I would say close to 95 to 99% of the people that are in the ultras, the Bara, all across there are wonderful people. Screaming Eagles as well, wonderful people who care about the club, who want to show strong support for the club, want to bring an atmosphere to the stadium, and don't want to engage in these violent acts. I hope the people are caught. I hope that the team takes efforts to better protect away fans, give them, a police presence, have more of a police presence around the stadium. I think would be something that would help, that could dissuade these types of actions. Figure out, organize better with the away support, organize buses or a bus for them or something like that. I hope these things can sort of, prevent those types of things, because there are idiots out there that think that this is, that this is what you do, is you go out and you fight. They watch Green Street Hooligans and think this is how you should behave if you're a hardcore soccer fan. And it's absolutely wrong, and it's absolutely despicable. So it's tough to say. I have seen, one or two incidences maybe in the last 5 years of violence. I know there was an incident several years ago between Red Bull and DC fans. I hope that this doesn't, that, what comes out, maybe that, it's someone really close to the Bara, and then there's sanctions, and then there's all kinds of other things that sort of happen. That sort of the team, maybe overreacts or overextends. That's kind of one concern I had. But I hope the people are caught, and I hope that they are brought to justice. They face charges. It's not at all good what happened. And it's really a shame, because they kind of ruined what should be a really good evening for DC, a team where we finally see this team play well. This team put out in a convincing win, and it's almost ruined by these idiots that think that that this is a way you behave. So it's, yeah.
And these dummies don't realize the amount of cameras that are outside of Audi Field and all over the streets there. So I think they're going to regret this for more than one way. I think we have Dan. I believe it's Dan Duck probably, who wants to talk about season ticket holder calculus, a thing that I really want to talk about, obviously.
Yeah, and this is what we thought the show was sort of gonna lead to. So we definitely want people to call on the number 202-905. We're sorry about the video. The video is working, so to speak. Something's up with one of the programs we use to actually broadcast the video. So we apologize for that. But Dan's on the phone.
Like,
what's that?
Yeah, you know what we look like. Just imagine us.
Yes.
Hey, Dan.
Dan, what's going on? Your floor is yours, my friend. Go ahead.
So, I was calling to talk about the renew, not renew thing, and not to harp on what you guys are already talking about. But even going to a Skins game at FedEx as a Skins fan felt like a more precarious proposition than I feel like being an away fan at an MLS game, because just so many people are 3 sheets to the wind and ready to rock.
I was just going to say that because this happens here once every, year and a half, where there'll be something league-wide that happens, and it becomes like, is this an epidemic? Are these people violent? And then you go to a Buffalo Bills game every weekend, and there's like 15 brawls and 35 tables on them. So you are right that this is just a challenge of people, space, and alcohol.
And it's something.
So zooming out from that.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan. Sorry, I want to bring on what you want to talk about, but go ahead.
So zooming out from that, for me personally, going to a DCI game is the most pleasant sporting experience in DC, and that was a big reason why I was on the renew camp for re-upping my season tickets to come back next year. And also they made it opt out, so if you kind of sat on it, then you were getting renewed.
That helps.
That happened to one of my friends too. I think he's like, oh yeah, I think today was the opt-out day, and I don't think I did it, so I'm back in for next year. So
playoff tickets are also opt-out, which is fine, because I was going to buy them anyway, but then in the email it's like, if you don't do anything, you bought them. So congrats.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a move. I guess that's an approach. So, uh, Dan, I'm largely like you. I feel like I am a captured fan for the most part. I think there are some, there are some exigent circumstances that are having me step away for the moment. But for the most part, I don't care. I mean, I care obviously about what the performance of the team is and what the front office is doing. But I was a season ticket holder in 2013. I was a season ticket holder in 2010. I have seen shitty soccer. I love the team despite it. So it really wasn't going to matter. This is where I can go see my team. I can have my same seat, and I can have the money just taken out of my account, and I don't have to think about it instead of having to be charged every time I go to the game. That's really for me what it is about. And I feel like I feel like you're part of a community. I mean, that's sort of it's a consumer community, but it feels like you're part of a community where you're investing. You're putting a marker down and saying, "I believe in this team and this city and this perspective, and here's my money. Here's how I'm going to prove it." Is that sort of how you feel as well?
Yeah, and I mean, unless they have 2 or 3 2013s in a row, it's going to be cheaper for me to have season tickets. Even when we're playing FC Cincinnati, my tickets that I'm paying $32 a seat for are $60 on StubHub. And like I've tweeted before, when it rains, I'll just convert my seats into UberX trips and buy a cheap seat over where John is under a roof.
Yep. That's where the action is. It's all about the downside is you have to look into like God's eye sun at any game that doesn't start at 8:00 and be blinded. But that's the only downside. Everything else about it rules. So 104 is where it's at, people.
Yeah,
if you're trying to find a section.
And I think they are slowly hearing some of the stuff about bringing back some of this. I wasn't a season ticket holder back in the RFK days, and like they're having the open practice early October.
Wednesday
That's
at 11 a.m.
But it's yeah. But like those things, I feel like they're starting to happen, and just the value proposition. And I want to go. I was already on, like you said, I was a captured fan, and I feel like some of the icing stuff. I'm optimistic that some of that icing stuff will be coming back.
I'm hopeful as well. I'm probably at this point not going to buy season tickets, but I want fans out there to be engaged into their local team and buy tickets. So we do have actually another caller who I think is waiting. Dan, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think that's it. Just how were the pupusas? Because I know there's been debate about the quality level. So how were they when you went?
I stopped. Did you have one? That's right. You had one.
Yeah, I had one. I don't know. Both me and my wife, I think my wife ate one, and our stomachs weren't feeling too good after that. So I'm not quite sure what happened. I thought they tasted fine, but
Ted throwing out health violation heat at them. For me, they're just getting a little stingy with the filling, a little bit too much pasta, not enough insides. That's my beef.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe just been a bad day, but
do I have $30 in fam I have to spend for this last game on food certificates? You better believe it. So if you ever want, come find me against FC Cincinnati, and I'll buy you something like a super pretzel or something. There's no way I eat this much money in food. It's not possible.
All right, Dan. Thanks so much for calling in, man.
Guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that they do start to take those types of things. So
they will.
Yeah,
I think they will. It was just this weird middle of the season where they didn't.
Yeah.
And I think now we're there. So people next year will have a better experience than people this year, I think, is the truth.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of it has to do with Rooney as well. So we have Albert on the line right now. Albert, you wanted to talk. Looks like you want to talk to the New York Red Bulls games, playoff implications, and Rooney versus Kamara. So fire away, my friend.
Hey there, it's my first time calling, so I might be a little bit nervous, but I'm one of the more younger fans, and I went to attend the Seattle match with my dad. And Rooney, unlike the last few matches, actually played really well. Hitting the bar a few times, couldn't get the goal, and giving the assist to Briant. So my question is really, with Rooney, giving this performance, would you put him as the main striker for the Red Bulls game, or perhaps bench him, get Kamara in there, or maybe run both of them as the two up front?
So yeah, I think you're not gonna. I don't think you're gonna see any changes for the rest of the season. There are 3 games definitely left for this team. There's the game against New York, the game against Cincinnati, and then the playoff game. Right now, you have a situation with Kamara where he's still, he started a couple games, got his fitness back under him. But I think at this point, you can, essentially use him as a super sub and bring him in. When you play this well, you don't really want to change things. You want to reward, good performances, and this was a good performance. I think Kamara might have been a good thing for Rooney because I think it got him re-engaged. I think it got him saying, do I really want this to be, do I want to limp out this contract? No, I want to show I can still do it because people were starting to question him. There was a lot of general upsetness about him. And so he puts in a good performance, comes in, plays well. I think we will see if Kamara's 100%, I think we see Kamara starting on the bench. Coming on for Wayne Rooney. You don't want to mess with a good thing, especially when you've got a couple games left, and then you're in the playoffs and you're fighting for your positioning. Because a home game is DC's away record's been pretty good, but you want to obviously have that home game. I want to have that home game.
Right.
I want to go to one more game.
Ola is definitely not 100%. I think he's not. I think he's unlikely to make the bench this game either. They're going to be very careful with him because what they cannot afford to have happen with him is they push him, he comes on and injures himself and rules him out for the rest of the year. Wayne is on the up, as you've seen the last game or two. Also, Ben is starting to get smart and subbing him out around 70 minutes, 75 minutes, and getting a little bit off his legs, which is smart. And Quincy's getting the opportunity to do what he does, particularly in a situation where we're ahead in a game. So I think that Ola is likely to they're going to bring him along slowly, make sure that he's ready to go come our first playoff game, and then we'll really have an opportunity to see what does the game dictate, who are we playing, what are we on the road, not that matters because it's a single elimination, but what have him as a tool for Ben to deploy as necessary. But I think that you're going to, like Ted said, the lineup you see is what you're going to see from now on unless someone gets hurt.
Of course. With Ola Kamara coming in, I feel like Rooney's definitely gotten better because we saw him limping around against, the last few matches that he was in, and finally he's actually making an impact from what I saw. And it isn't just us depending on our midfield, like in Portland and Montreal and the other matches.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were happy to see it. I think that I'm not sure how much of it was down to motivation or whatever else. I think it's just he's an excellent player. He always has been an excellent player. He knows that he's coming down here to the final days. He does care about what the fans think about him. He wants to put on a good performance, and he's motivated, and the rest of the team around him is playing well too. And that is something you can't discount. The rest of the team has brought it up another notch. We found a formation and a lineup that works. And a defensive midfield. I mean, he's in a position to succeed. He doesn't have Acosta like he did last year, but he has players around him that are finding him in positions for him to be dangerous. So you got to be happy about the way things are, and Wayne sort of how he's going to end his time with DC, sort of on the way up instead of sort of red carding his way out of way out of DC.
All right, Albert, we have another caller actually who's ready to get on. So I think we're gonna let you go.
Can I have one last question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yep.
So with Canals, playing right back and playing really well, do you expect him to continue playing right back until the playoffs and having Felipe and Moreno as our our defensive mid?
I would say right now with the way the team looked against Seattle, I don't see any reason to change that. We all were very high on Leonardo Jara to start the year. I'm thinking things have gone south with him because he's not even making any appearances anymore. I think I'm trying to remember if he was actually even in the subs bench for this game. But at this point, I think you look at how well Canals has done excellent as a right back. And Felipe's been managed to be a good boy. He hasn't gotten himself in any trouble. There hasn't been any incidents. And he's been kind of an underrated. We were all hating the move, and he's played really well too. Moreno's kind of even sort of regained a lot of his form. I'd like to see him maybe take a couple more shots. I think he had a couple opportunities where I'm like, come on, Moreno, you have that ability. You can fire that from that range. But
he never sees.
he never does. You're right. But I think at this point I'm not expecting any major changes unless there's injury or something goes really wrong in the next couple games against New York or Cincinnati. I don't even then. I think you'd be hard pressed if they don't play as well against New York but still get a result. Then I think you keep going. There isn't really any more time to make any major changes. And this is working. And right now, what's working? You've got 2 games. So, thanks for the call, Albert. We're gonna grab somebody else, I think.
Call back again, Albert. I
Yes,
appreciate you calling
call
in.
back in. We really appreciate it. All right. Yeah, I mean, I don't see any major changes that the team's gonna make. Nope, nothing.
Don't even like when the image comes out 90 minutes before the game. Don't even look at it.
Yeah,
It looks exactly the same. You
Yeah.
can reuse it.
Unless there's an injury.
And there won't be. Everything will be fine.
Yeah, everything's gonna be fine. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. All right. Once Skype decides it wants to actually connect, we got Pat on the line. Pat, welcome to RFQ Refugees. How can we help you?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, good.
I was calling to talk about season ticket renewals.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
About that early in the week. So I renewed my season tickets. Thought it was a really good value. I'm switching sections. I'm going from the supporter section to the opposite end of the stadium. But like I think I don't know totally where all the gripes would be from people who aren't renewing their season tickets, and obviously everyone has their own reasons. But I think a lot of people who care a lot about the team tend to like maybe overestimate how much even other season ticket holders are as involved or think about some of the critiques of like the front office or some of the ways that people feel like the club is screwing things up. Because I think if you go to every DC game and you just eat, sleep, breathe DC United, you can lose sight of like just how much fun these games are to go to. It's like an incredible experience. Anytime I've ever brought someone to their first game, they're blown away by Audi. They're blown away by Audi Field. There's not a bad seat in the place. The games are super fun. It's just a really good product. And I mean, I think there are some things I think you can critique the team for, but overall, I think they've actually done a really good job. And I think the front office even gets a little bit more flack than they deserve, honestly.
Yeah, it's tough for me to say, people who have been going since 1996, who've been showing up to every game. I think there's a lot of investment. I think the team in the front office, there were some very, very serious missteps, sort of leading into the stadium. Even before then, there were things that were not there. There were people installed in that team that definitely catered to the fans' every need. They organized bus trips. They really put a lot of effort into appealing to those fans. And then you kind of have other people come in that sort of treat this like, any other sporting operation. And so I think that change definitely affected things. I think what we saw with the supporter group controversy really angered a lot of people. And I think people.
Yeah, I mean that was boneheaded for sure.
Yeah,
that was ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think it caused a lot of strife, and I think the team is starting to do better. I just think it's not coming along maybe as quickly as people want. And there were still things like there was the season ticket holder, $10 to gift card. There's still the issue with the promises of safe standing, and then the switch, like, oh well, we're gonna do it eventually, and there were a lot of things I think that happened, and also there were a lot of fans. I think there are a lot of people out there that we never thought that this stadium was going to happen. There was a time period when we were looking at Baltimore and St. Louis, and there was a whole rallying effort to get this stadium built. It's sort of like you put a lot of effort into getting somebody elected to office. It's an a campaign no one thinks is going to win. They win. You're really excited, and then they kind of get in there, and then they kind of get swooned by big business and big money, and they sort of go back on a lot of what they said, and it's an investment that you get really upset about. So I think that's kind of what a lot of fans are feeling right now. They put a lot of investment in this team. They supported it when very few people did. It was very much a laughing stock amongst sports talk radio, the media. Really, Stephen Goff was the only reporter really covering the team. And so then I think to be sort of treated kind of like any other sports fan, I think it feels a little hurtful. I think the team they're doing a little bit better job to try to win people back, but it's going to be an effort, and it's going to take a lot to bring some of these people back, because I think some of these people are kind of done, and they're kind of saying, you know what, I'll watch the team. And there's also there's the Flow Sports thing too. There's a lot of things I think that happened that kind of were very short sighted. So,
Pat, how many years have you been
I
a
think
season ticket holder?
even on the flow, like the flow deal, like flow's terrible. Like I tried it, I signed up for it with the, when they gave the season ticket holders like a deal. I tried it for the first game for NYFC. It was garbage. I just canceled it and I was done with it. And I was like, I'll watch the national broadcasts, or I'll just watch the highlights of the game. So like, I mean, the quality of flow is terrible. But I also think, I think you guys have said this before, but like, I don't know what the books of the team look like, and like I think the national deal or MLS that don't negotiate anything past like 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if Flow is offering the team ridiculous amounts of money, they're like, all right, we'll just we'll take a flyer on this company for 3 years or whatever, take the money. And I mean, if that goes into investing in the product on the field, like it's definitely annoying, but I think I think if the next 2 years they continue to grow, like I don't want to say I'm like I don't know. I come down as sort of indifferent on the flow thing as long as the money goes into making the team better,
Right.
or making the club stronger.
And I want to go back one thing that Ted was talking about. So Pat, how long have you been a season ticket holder? Is this your second year? You said.
This is gonna be my second year. I was a season ticket holder back in 2007
Okay.
as well, but I lapsed for a while. So
Yeah. So this is my read on it, and we did the poll. We had 100 respondents. Very scientific. I think someone had somebody was very upset by the fact that our data was not good because we did not follow the scientific method correctly and didn't have a representative sample size on our Twitter poll. But it seems like most of all the people who are lapsing are the long term fans, the folks who have come in either just at Audi or a little bit before are much more likely to renew than the other folks. And I think what it is that people have gotten used to, and this is I think Sebi talked about this on Pitch Pass, is you talked about it, the fact that the product is good. Anybody who goes to a game, they don't have to know anything about DC United. They don't have to know anything about the history. They don't have to know about RFK. They go, they have a good time, they enjoy it, they want to come back. So the game sells itself. Before it did, when we were at RFK, and you were there for a year, so you remember what this is like. The team had to make such a concerted effort to build a community with its fans. They had to give them extra value. They had to make them feel like part of something rather than just being a Redskins or a Nats or a Wizards ticket holder. You're just a person that consumes this product, and you give us money and you come to the games. RFK was so shitty, and DC United was in its lean years was so bad. They had to bend over backwards and sideways to make it worth your while to come out to this crap hole. And they knew that the appeal for most of the people were the other people there. It was Lot 8 was the appeal. It was sitting in the supporter section that was the appeal. It was being in this historical building and seeing this team that had a tradition and legacy to it and feeling like you were part of it. That obviously it's changed. Things change. We've moved buildings. We're in a DC United 3.0 or whatever the hell at this point. So those people, I think, feel a deficit from what they used to feel, and the connection they had to the club is changed. And it's not right and it's not wrong. And I don't think they're overestimating their value to the team or how much their gripes should matter. I just think that their partner has changed, right? They had a relationship that was one thing a long time ago, and one of the people in the relationship has changed and one of them hasn't. And it's time for that other person to move on. And it makes sense. It's logical. And the fact that there are new people to take that person's place tell you that the team isn't inherently bad. The brand is inherently bad. It's attracting new people. It's just different now. It's a different beast. And it's something that we all have to just reckon with and understand. I think there's nothing wrong with people renewing or getting tickets now and, not really caring about the fact that, tradition is not, they're working on it. They're trying to make it a thing. It's not there yet. They're just there to have a good time and they love the team, just like anyone who is a long timer loved the team. It's just that the relationship back to them is different now, and people have different needs. That's a long way of saying that, different strokes for different folks, but that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I mean, look, I don't think you could, like, the atmosphere on the Loud side in RFK was just unbeatable, and like I like it was just awesome. And I think sometimes, like, when the whole stadium is rocking at Audi, I think it feels as fun. But I think I guess I would say, like, I think to your point, I think there's been a drop off in some areas, but maybe like the overall average experience has risen, and I think that's just the trade-off. And like, you're right, it's totally fair if people don't like that trade-off. I just think the like average game day experience of people going to DC United has actually improved from RFK, and obviously, I mean, the quality of the soccer is better too. But in general the game day experience on average is better. But I fair point that for some people, like, you know, the Lot 8 and the Loud Side and all that has totally changed.
It's like seeing a band at the Black Cat and then seeing them again 9 years later at the Anthem. Same band, different context, different experience. You change along with how you experience it. I think that's a good analogy. RFK is definitely the back room at DC9 or the red room, and Audi Field is definitely the Anthem. To continue my music metaphor.
Yeah, totally.
And sort of to add to the overall experience, I think there have been things that were said initially. You know, I talked about the safe standing. Yeah, the safe standing. I'm referring more to the game day experience.
Okay.
And I think there were things that were told, you know, we're going to have safe standing, you know, or we're going to, you know, and then, you know, that was an issue. They sort of
They
said,
do need that too.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of things they need. And also the roof, you know, finishing the roof. The stadium is still not finished. The lack of respect for the history and the building that into the stadium, it seems like it's just very all advertising. So I think that those are also kind of playing into role, and they affect how I viewed the club over the past couple. You know, I was fine with it. You know, hey, they built the new stadium. Okay, cool. You got the trophies out there. That's pretty cool. You know, at the event. But you know, I was like, okay, well, next year they're gonna have you know the banners. They're gonna have the displays and everything like that. You know,
Paint the wall.
Yeah, you know, I can think of like 5 different places where they can put those locations, and it would be cool. You know, in my head, and none of that happened. I mean, the experience is pretty much the same as it was, you know, July, you know, minus, you know, a piece of the stadium falling on their media person. So it's pretty much been the same, and I think that's been also, and it's frustrating for me as well because, you know, I have a lot of great memories of this club. I have grown up with this club. I started watching them really when I was, you know, 10, 11 years old. You know, and even a little bit before that. You know, I went to games at RFK, and so for me, being sort of very much a longtime fan, you know, watches every game week in, week out, it's very frustrating, you know, to sort of see the history sort of go away. Not seeing Jaime Moreno's number up there, who I watched, you know, for years, put forward just some of the most joyous soccer I'd ever seen live. So I think that also plays a role into some of what the fans are feeling. It's sort of the lack of respect for the history.
Yeah, and I think that's totally right. I guess my view of that is that feels like I mean, the club has to fix it, but that feels like an easier thing for them to fix. Like, you know, hang some banners, put some stuff up, like make that more a part of Audi Field, and that seems like a low bar from the clear. So hopefully they clear it. And I mean, I think the safe standing thing is actually that's like so important. I mean, it's like a non-trivial reason why I'm not renewing in the supporter section, just because like some games it gets super packed in there. It's like people are stacked up standing on the floor and on the benches, and like it's just not super safe sometimes, and it's not anybody's fault other than like people are just, I think, sneaking into the section, but I think I do think the team is kind of playing with fire on that front, actually.
Yeah, and actually I did my first game on Seattle, and actually we had a good time. I'm actually going to, I think the next game I'm going to go back there and sit there, because I actually had a fun time and it kind of brought me back. And my biggest concern,
$130 a ticket, like the other ticket you bought last time.
Yeah. That was to sit with a friend. It was for his birthday, so and I finagled some money in order for my credit card in order to get those tickets. So you know, I definitely want to go back to that section of the stadium. And you know, when you talk about, you know, we've talked about the sightlines were incredible. When I would watch, you know, games in the RFK, I would never really know what happened in the game, because the flags would go up. I never really could tell what was going on in the game. Otherwise, I'd see the ball hit the back of the net, and it would be a goal, and I'd be happy. But that would be about it. This stadium, you know, pretty much regardless of where I sit, you know, yeah, the flag does get in the way of what I'm watching, which, you know, that's what I'm fine with it. I sign up for that. But, you know, I can still at least know how the game is going and everything. And I can see the field. Audi Field has some of the best sight lines I've ever seen for any stadium, any experience. So that in and of itself is really good.
Yeah, I've sat in like 3 or 4 different sections, and it's all awesome.
Yeah.
Which I think goes to like, it's just like going to see this team, see these games is just such a pleasant experience compared to, you know, RFK was great for why it was great, but I mean, if you weren't sitting in the supporter section, I think it was, I honestly honestly don't know what you were doing, because like if you're sitting on the quiet side of RFK, like you're in these like weird, very slightly tilted baseball stands, and like I mean, there's no flags in front of you, but your view is like not great.
Yeah.
It was not great.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for calling, Pat. Wiley, we're gonna let you go, but
guys.
you got
Call back anytime. Pat.
Yes, please call back.
Great podcast. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, I was I think the video podcast, I got recognized again at the game when I was buying a beer. Someone's like, "Are you Ted?" I think you probably saw like my card when I went to like swipe it, and then they told the beer guy
he was looking at the name on your credit card as you swiped it.
Possibly. I'm thinking that's what it was. I don't know. He said, "Are you Ted?" He might have recognized me. Who knows?
Yeah, I think we have a situation here. If we do the video, we get recognized at the stadium, which feels pretty damn good. You gotta admit, feels great. If we don't show the video and just do the sound, we get a shit ton more callers because people don't want to look at our faces and they just want to talk. So it's sort of a double-edged sword here.
Double-edged sword. But I think it's interesting. I think there definitely is, and to me, what we just heard right now is sort of kind of what the team has kind of said. They feel that they can replace old time season ticket holders, with people who are new or who are people who haven't been there for very long. So, I think, it's interesting to hear a person come in and say, well, I think that, the experience is fine. I was a season ticket holder, in 2007, I did a little bit, but, I'm kind of back in, and I think it's really fine. I think there's a lot of sort of over, what I've heard some people say, there's a lot of kind of over importance that some of the older fans think that they are. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I want some of those people to come back. There are people out there that I want to come back to games that don't go anymore. So definitely there's some quality fans out there that we've lost. I feel.
Yeah, I think we talked this to death, and I think we'll continue to talk it as people decide and not decide for next year. But there is. You lose something when you lose that history, right? I think the team sort of has made that decision, right, in a lot of ways, that you sometimes you forego the past to build your future a little bit, and you want newer fans who are going to be fans for longer. Not everyone who's a 96er stayed till now. Most of them didn't. Almost all of them didn't. So, and there's something to be said to have new fans that don't have necessarily the negative baggage associated with the leaner years at RFK. You lost a lot of the folks that went through the winning years and would walk through fire to continue to go to these games. I think that some of them went through the fire of the late 2000s and were like, actually, no, this sucks. I can't do this anymore. I think they're going to be fine. I really do. Based on our scientific poll and things that I've seen on Reddit and things that I've seen elsewhere, they're going to be fine. It's not going to be big empty seats next year for no Rooney. The fact that they locked in the prices for this year and also enabled you to lock in your price for multiple years, I think there's something to that. I mean, again, in a different world, I'm signing that 5-year contract where I don't live in Stafford County or you don't live in Richmond. we lived back where we did when we were in our early 20s. I assume it would be a little bit different. RFK was easy, and you could get out of there really easy, and it would seem like it was just you were popping around the corner to see a game, and then you were home in 20 minutes. At least how it used to be for me.
Yeah. I mean, it was super easy to get to. I think if I lived closer to and had the disposable income to do it, I would definitely do it. But I think it's a very different experience too when you're going week in, week out than when you're going like me, who goes, I've gone more than I ever thought I would. There were times I thought maybe I'd go to like a couple games. Usually I've done 2 games. I do like the first game and like the last game or a playoff game or something like that. And this time I think I've gone to like 5 games. It's been kind of ridiculous. Some that's been kind of happenstance. I don't know if that'll be repeatable. And I also have some money.
Yeah, but Ted talking about his money. I think I'll probably be new. I'll be you next year. My hope is to go to 4 or 5 games, and sneak what I can, and be watching on Flow and complaining about everything else. With all of you who have it drop out. Do we ever talk about the fact that
I don't think we covered that.
It didn't make it through. Yeah. So the start of the game, we heard about it. It's very cool, by the way. The side effect, the side benefit of having a podcast that people listen to is that if anything goes wrong, like a shit ton of people will tweet you directly. That's like the tech support page. Like,
Yes.
hey, I don't know if you know this, but the geo fence around Flow Sports isn't working and no one can watch it, and then you get a lot of notifications. So once again, the zip code, whatever the hell that they use, their dragnet for who can access Flow Sports was malfunctioning, and people in the city and around the city could not watch the game. At least couldn't watch the pregame. I think by the time the game started, they were good. But then once again, the @DC United account was doing like tech support, like, hey, Greg, make sure you flush your cache, reset your DNS, and
I
you
feel
should be good to go.
I feel really bad for the people that run social media accounts for sports teams. Like that's got to be like the most like.
And they don't make any money.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
quadruple whammy.
yeah, and they get yelled at over things. I mean, I think there were people. I think when the social media person was posting about how we had clinched the playoffs and everything, and there were people out there being like, "Oh, why are you so excited?" And I was like, everybody, just leave him alone. Just leave him alone. Just
Let's give props to the new DC United Twitter.
Yeah.
person
Oh,
that
heck
came
yes.
From Carolina.
yeah,
She's up the meme game like tremendously.
yeah.
I expect to see more SpongeBob memes. I think if she really wants to endear herself to at least us, more SpongeBob memes would be good. But it's good. It's good, guys. The thing that I have been annoyed about by this team is that we are in the year of our Lord 2019, and the social media tricks and trades that they were just leaving money on the table by not really leaning into this and seeing how the rest of not just MLS but sports teams engage their fans and don't just like push information at them like, here's an article from our website, you should buy tickets.
Yeah.
Here's an ad from our sponsor.
It's-
like you can't do it like this.
It's a personality thing too. It gives your account a little bit of personality, and people engage with it, and people want to actually engage and enjoy, what you have to read and what you have to see. So I think that was I think that was certainly it's good to see that type of content sort of come out. It's also good to see the team. They've invested, I think, in someone who speaks Spanish on the sideline, so we get perspectives from Luciano Costa. We get perspectives from all the Spanish players, or players who speak Spanish, the Latino players that we bring into the club. So I think that's something that the team has been very good about this season. And the Flow Sports deal is the Flow Sports deal. Anyone hoping they're going to get out of it, it's not going to happen. Flow Sports is going to be here. I fully project they're going to see out their contract.
For sure.
Things need to get better. No question about it. I'm very, very worried about that renewal date, whether I'm still going to be able to get the same sort of price or the discounted rate.
Just to join a supporters,
What's that?
and then you get a discount. You just join a supporters
No.
group and you get the season ticket holder discount.
Yeah, no. I got the discount and everything. So I mean, I got the discount this year. I'm just worried that they're going to take it away next season. That sounds like
No way. There'll be like 8 people subscribed to that service if they do that.
Yeah,
There's no way.
And I would be
People will-
forced to be like one of them probably because I have
You'll
no
be-
other choice.
Yeah, that's maybe. I think your VPN skills would increase greatly if that were to happen.
Yeah. All right.
One more thing. Well, yeah, I would just say about Flow. Like Ted said, they will see out their contract. Barring some situation where they accidentally broadcast porn or something on Flow Sports during a game, they will see it out. If here's your RFK Refugees promise. If that doesn't happen, if the aforementioned accidental porn airing doesn't happen, I will replace Ted with a chocolate lab on the pod, and that we'll do an episode where I talk to my dog exclusively. If this happens, that's how confident I am that this won't happen.
Yeah.
But if it does, it will be pretty funny. So you really can't lose, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I agree, and I think, yeah, it's not gonna happen. I'm sorry, guys.
No.
Yeah, we're stuck with Flow. We have to deal with it.
No chocolate lab podcast.
Let's just hope that whatever MLS has up their sleeve for the local national rights that they're talking about, let's just hope that they do not decide to go with Flow, and then we are done with this nightmare, and this nightmare is over.
Yeah.
But it will be kind of sad because then we probably lose Dave Johnson, which would be pretty sad.
Dave cannot be killed by conventional means. Wherever this game is broadcast, he will set up a pirate radio station outside of Audi Field and broadcast the game. I'm certain of it.
Okay. All right. Anything else we want to talk about?
No, I think you and I should go get ready to play some FIFA 20.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I don't know if we'll live stream this. We'll figure it out. I'm not sure. But anyway,
If we do, we'll throw a link up for you to watch us grope blindly into FIFA 20.
yes. Anyway, I guess that's it. Thank you all so much for listening to this videoless podcast. We're going to work and trying to make this a little bit better. You've been listening to the RFK Refugees podcast. Find us on patreon.com/RFK if you want to donate. Twitter.com/RFK Refugees. Facebook.com. Search the RFK Refugees podcast. You guys have been awesome, and we will catch you all next week. Vamos.
For the calls, vamos.
Yes, thank you for the calls.